Welcome to Money Matters. I'm Tom Spottiswoode of Wachovia Securities in Bethesda, Maryland. And today I'm very excited to have on our show Jason Smolen. He's a principal at Smolen Plevy, a law firm in Tysons Corner, Virginia. He's a local Bethesda resident, a native. Are you from?
Yep. No, I'm originally from New York.
New York, okay. And today we're going to talk about succession planning and for your business. So thanks a lot. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks very much for having me.
We really appreciate it. And I guess lately there's been a lot of volatility in the market and people are worried about their net worth, and I think it's kind of important for business owners to think about what they could be doing to plan successfully for making a transition. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure.
Is that what you're here for?
Yeah, that's a great subject and an important one, especially in this area, because there are a lot of small business, notwithstanding that we have a lot of government people, there are also a lot of people that have small businesses to fairly large ones. And the size doesn't matter because there are some very large privately held businesses. The issue becomes that the founding person, the one that starts the business, is very focused in making it grow, making it go. But the very little thought eventually gets given to who takes over when I go, or if I retire, if I want to go somewhere, if I want to start sailing, what happens? So it's very important for people that do have businesses to start meeting with, I would almost call it a team. You know, the financial advisor, you know, talk about the market, you know, how do you live afterwards, an accountant, their lawyer, and coordinate a plan that would allow them to let this business go to the next generation or some third-party buyer or seller, separate, sometimes it's management, so that there's continuity and it continues.
What do you see as a big hurdle for people doing this? I think mentally I see that they should do it, and logically a part of them says, hey, I know I need to do this, but it doesn't get done. I see that quite often. It doesn't happen. Why?
Well, you're absolutely right. It doesn't get done, and because of that, only about 15% or so of businesses make it to the next generation or to the next round. So a lot fail. You
mean because, I'm sorry, only 15% make it because it wasn't planned properly, or because the conversation didn't happen, or the transition wasn't done, or all the above?
It's a bit of all of the above. You know, and when I say it doesn't make it, is what we're talking about is a business that actually was good, making money, and then it dies.
Yeah.
And you know, there might have been children that could have stepped in or should have stepped in. Maybe they've all gone elsewhere. You know, it's not like we're in the Midwest or where there are farms and you want to know that you have children that could grow up and keep running the farm and they've gone to the city. A lot of businesses here could be very interesting to children, but if you run it until you're 75 and the children by then have gone to college and gone to graduate school and have moved out of town, it's no longer interesting for them. They're not coming back.
You know, it's funny because I have a friend of mine, and his dad he's a very successful horse trainer here in Maryland, extremely successful guy. Yes. And the two sons are completely uninterested in doing the business. They have no interest. And I think there must be some little bit of heartbreak there. I don't know the whole story. And then I have another client of mine. They own a construction business, and he actually had transitioned earlier before retiring, or as he was getting close to retirement, he transitioned to his son.
Right.
His son was doing some other business down in Florida. He came back. They're actually doing better now than when the dad was, which I think is unusual. They're actually doing much better, and the transition worked out well.
The construction business is a great one to mention because even if you're not the guy that's going to be laying bricks and mortar up and carrying cement and, you know, the architect or reviewing plans, construction firms require so many different talents, and management is really the most important thing. You can have someone that went to Harvard Business School and can do very, very well coming back to a construction firm. And in the example you gave, the parents or the family got involved in a discussion as to what happened. Something happened to make it go right. It didn't happen by accident.
Well, I think they had multiple kids too, so at least one of them knew what to do.
Well, that brings up a very interesting problem. And a very interesting dynamic. When someone has multiple children, or even more complicated, different spouses sometimes with different children, it's who does go in,
right, and
how many go in, and what do you do to take care of those that don't.
When you talk about businesses that you work with, what type of business, or how big are they? Is any are they small businesses? Are they 500 people businesses, 1,000 people? There's a lot of companies here in the Montgomery County area.
Right, exactly. Our particular firm, if a company's public, we're not involved. And public, the market's taking care of it,
sure,
good
obviously.
or bad these days.
Yeah, exactly.
Our clients range from simple, the husband and wife own the business, from husband and wife own the business, but they have 500 employees. So we run the gamut on some from very, modest companies to quite large and successful ones, but typically privately owned.
Going back to a hurdle that I see, that when we talk about succession planning, that's really a type of business estate planning.
Yes.
And estate planning is really death planning. Is that what you see happens? These guys they're running their business. They're usually people with big egos, big personalities. It's tough for them to think that way, isn't it?
It's very tough for them to think of it, and especially they really don't like to think about death planning, as you put it.
Not too many people do. That's the big.
Right, but you're saying it right. I mean, it's the correct thing to say. I would say business succession planning is sort of like death planning on steroids. You are thinking down the road. You're thinking to the future before it's too late. I once had the very unpleasant experience of a client that had about 125 employees, died suddenly, and I was speaking with the wife. She had no ability to run the business, not because she was smart enough, she just didn't have, it wasn't her skill set. They had not groomed anybody else to take over, not even management, and I had the very unpleasant experience of having to go and make an announcement to the company within a week of his death that we had to shut down. And this was painful. No, it was terrible, but we did an analysis and we sat down with some other people. We saw the expense of running the business, what would happen without him at the top, and basically we would have bled a slow death. It just would have consumed money without the leadership and the connections and the contacts to make it going. So it was a services type company that just absolutely required that person or someone that could have replaced them.
Well, what do you do? How do you motivate people? I mean, you say, well, I mean, it's a tough discussion to have. I mean, people come to you, I guess, but at a certain point you have to come to them and keep the ball rolling. I mean, do you say, you're going to die, someone's going to get it, you might as well choose who does it? I mean, what are the buttons you push?
Well, it comes from two different directions. Sometimes we're sitting and talking about wills and trusts, and sometimes I represent a business owner, and I would say in my work, it's about 50-50. What's very nice about this area that I'm in is we straddle the business world and the estate world, and we don't have blinders on, so we just say, okay, this is a very nice little estate plan, and we hope it works with everything else. We look at everything else, and since we're tax attorneys and business attorneys, we have the opportunity to see what happens in these. So it's either driven when we meet a business client and then we start talking to them about planning for the future that way, or it's an estate client that the circumstances dictate that we should discuss this.
Okay, so that kind of pushes them along, gets them moving.
Right, right.
And then do you see a lot of, I'm just curiosity, is it a lot of the family members come? Because I see a lot of times the family members, they don't want to get involved. They're like, dad's kind of running this or mom's running this, and let them make the decisions. Do you see that too, or do the other family members come in and kind of push it, move it?
You tend to get a bit of both.
Yeah.
And the one arrangement, I can't say I don't like it, but it's not my favorite, is when the children are driving the deal.
Yeah.
They don't have the experience, the gray hair, the sensitivity to siblings.
Right.
Parents say, I want to take care of all the kids. Kids don't always exactly look like that, but thank goodness, they're not kings and people are killing each other to get to the top. but you could end up with situations like that.
Well, but the one thing I think is true is you should have the planning, because often you hear after the death of somebody in the investments, oh, we're okay, we all like each other, everything's going to go smooth, and it doesn't. And there's little things that come up that the hidden little agendas that you don't see, and people have to deal with that, and it causes sometimes more pain and turmoil than was expected.
Oh, it's so much easier to fix something before you face it. Much, much easier.
All right, why don't we hold right there, and we'll be right back after.